1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, this is so exciting. Wow, it's so exciting. Wow, it's so exciting.
Welcome to the Polar Bear Project, a podcast for the autism community. My name's Alan Doyle, and today we're meeting with Sally Nillson. Sally is a hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, also a mentor and coach for clients who are or think they are neurodivergent. Sally works with individuals and organisations across a wide range of emotional well-being difficulties, including mental health support for young people, adults, and newly discovered neurodivergent, diagnosed and self-diagnosed individuals. Sally also has her own podcast called Neurodivergency and the Mental Health Podcast, which is coming out this October. She's also currently writing an autobiography as an autistic ADHD individual. Sally reached out to us recently in response to a previous interview with Sir Simon Baron Cohen about Spectrum 10K. This was a research project seeking to recruit 10,000 autistic people in the UK to participate by giving a sample of DNA and filling out questionnaires related to the individual's physical and mental health. In today's conversation, we discussed the reaction from the autistic community and the deeply held concerns expressed around the research project. We also discussed how best non-autistic allies can support the autistic community. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and take something of value from it. And if so, please like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever format you listen to your podcasts on. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new episodes. We hope you enjoy the show. Sally, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for reaching out to us and coming on the show with us today.
And it's really, really good to see you. Thank you very much for letting me come on and have a chat.
Yeah, great. So I'll open with, as I've started to do now, why autism? What led you on your journey, your autistic journey? If you want to just give us a brief overview before we get into today's topic.
Okay, I was having clients coming to see me who were exhibiting dissociation and meltdown and burnout symptoms that I hadn't seen before in the 6 years I've been practicing. So I started going the polyvagal route about what that was all about. And then that led me to an interest in autism and family members who were sort of showing traits. And I was meeting people and going on conferences about autism. And the more I learned, somebody introduced me to a book called Divergent Mind. The finger started pointing at me. So that led me onto a journey to find out what I was all about. And it was a difficult journey towards assessment, diagnosis and post-diagnosis, and misdiagnosis, being prescribed Prozac, feelings of grief, identity, all sorts of things, difficulties with the psychologist, finding another one costing 1,700 quid. And eventually it came out that I was autistic and ADHD, predominantly ADHD. The person who diagnosed me autistic said if I was on medication for ADHD, I'd probably show more autistic than ADHD. I'm not on meds. So I've rewritten my life story. And now I've wanted to write a book for a long time, but now I've got something to write about. And I'm part of the autistic community. I advocate and I'm just really, really interested in supporting people. It's part of who I am. I work for other people, for justice, for my clients. And there's things come up recently and people are jumping around a bit. So at the moment, my special interest is, of course, autism, my clients, and Spectrum 10.
Okay. And Sally, it'd be great to have you on another time, and you can share that journey in more detail. Maybe when the book is coming out or something. Or anyway, we can discuss that. So
love to.
Spectrum 10. Yeah. So Spectrum 10K. Well, I suppose the floor is yours in terms of if you want to. What would you like to open up with in terms of the discussion?
Well, the reason I wanted to come on this podcast is because I'd heard this Simon Baron Cohen podcast, and I've made lots of notes about it. Okay. Not that I need to go through them at the moment because we only have half an hour. But so much came out of it, and I've listened to autistic people. I've been on panels, I've been on webinars and conferences with autistic people who are very, very worried. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to, if it's okay, get straight into the bones of it and the concerns that I have, because it's my concerns. I'm not speaking for the autistic community, but and I hope some of them agree with me, but this is what I'm worried about. Mm-hmm. Let's start with money. It's going to cost, I understand, around £3 to £5 million. And this is over 3 years with some results coming out in the first year. And my concern is that money could be much better spent educating society, educators, scientists, parents, health service, prisons, special needs, schools, and much more, basically supporting and accommodating autistic people. Secondly, the advisory panel, only 4 out of the 11 are autistic. That's not nearly enough. The team, as far as we know, there's none. It should be weighted much more heavily with autistic people, autistic scientists and experts, because there's plenty of them. The harvesting of DNA, from whom? Mainly children who can't choose and people who have quite significant learning difficulties. Many autistic people with more needs. What will happen with the DNA in the future? Will the mothers be given a choice of terminating autistic babies? Or will it be a designer baby culture in the future? Things that we're kind of, I'm worried about. The security of medical record sharing. There's also already been decades of research into autism and co-occurring conditions. Why now? And the fact that one of the leading scientists has a significant involvement in a movement called Cure Autism Now. We are not broken, diseased, or need curing. I discovered my autism and ADHD age 56 this March 2021. Now I discover there are people possibly wanting to eradicate people like me. No way. And that's it.
Okay. Well, you've covered an awful lot there, Sally. And certainly, I suppose, again, from the interview and our experience here on the Polar Bear Project is that absolutely the anxiety and the concern was palpable. And in terms of as well that Spectrum 10K released a couple of different statements, two statements that certainly come to mind, and as of now, I believe the project is paused for some time to come until these concerns are addressed. So, I mean, that in its...
Can I just add something in there? Because this is my ADHD brain. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
When you say something key, I got to nip in, otherwise I'll forget.
Go ahead.
And that is interesting that the project's been paused. But like politics in a way, why has it been paused? I don't know why, but something in my head is kind of saying to me, are they going to repackage it so it's more palatable, the terminology and the language used, but it's actually going to be exactly the same thing? How long is the pause for? What will the differences be? Will they get rid of some of the people on the panel who aren't autistic and replace it with people who are much more relevant, that sort of thing? So the pause is good, pause for thought, a breath, excellent. But what does that mean? We need more clarity, more detail, and everybody needs to understand.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of that, it certainly looks like a very, very positive step in terms of more inclusion. And some argued that in the build up, why didn't that occur prior to the launch and so on and so forth? And that's for discussions between the researchers and so on and Spectrum 10K. Absolutely. I mean, I think as well, as you say, just speaking for yourself and certainly myself and on behalf of the podcast here, we're not we're not trying to be right. We're trying to get it right in terms of learning more, engaging more, and building bridges of understanding throughout the community. Autistic community, the wider autism community of family and carers and so on and so forth, and the general public, as it were. I think to touch on some of on some of the issues that it immediately raised, triggered, within the autistic community in terms of the cure, in terms of eugenics as well, that the that there's a sort of a sustained sense that element or certain philosophies of the medical profession want to find ways to as you said there, I think eradicate or autism or even screen autism and so on. And it is absolutely, it's a moral and ethical and philosophical discussion that needs to take place right across the entire community and society in general. So I absolutely agree with all that, with all of that in terms of the concerns and so on. In terms as well then, and I suppose if we can get into again on a more personal level, that there was a huge amount of hurt as well, and it brought up so much that once again the autistic community is being dismissed or disregarded or being disrespected. If you want to just talk a little bit about that, did you have any of those particular feelings yourself personally, or certainly in discussions with the community? How was that feedback?
Well, going back to the point I made, I've only just, quite 6 months ago, found out about my autism and ADHD. And that was an enormous thing. It was such a big thing, and it's not handled very well at all right across the board. Lots of things need to change about that. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of really important. And the other thing as well, I have a friend who missed the boat about having a baby and until well into her 40s, and so she went for a fertility treatment, and she was going for a baby in her early 50s, and she was quite a vulnerable person mentally, and I had my concerns, and I remember sitting with her, and she had a list that she was taking to the fertility treatment, setting, saying, they need to have dark hair so they look like me, maybe something like Spanish. I don't want any asthma, allergies. And she gave me a kind of list, a shopping list of what she wanted the baby to be like. I had such concerns. So when I started hearing about the DNA and eugenics and about the possibilities, which is kind of similar, very similar, alarm bells rang. So I didn't like that. But the thing is, Alan, is, I know a lot about myself now. I'm happy with who I am. There have been challenges, in my life, really big challenges, but there's also really good stuff as well. And I think you're going to ask me a question about that. Yeah.
Well, exactly. In terms of all of the knowledge and lived experience that autistic researchers, if we're still talking about in the context of Spectrum 10K, that it would stand to reason all of the experience that the autistic researchers and so on can bring to the project and can bring to the program. I mean, it does stand to reason that it's fairly obvious that there would be more to be gained by more inclusion in the project. And I suppose in terms of, if you want to speak personally, either a comment on what I just said there, or if you want to speak personally about how your so recent diagnosis and how you've tapped into those strengths as well. And if you want to share that with us, that'd be great.
Okay, so just for Spectrum 10, they absolutely need to have many more autistic scholars, experts, scientists, data analysis, anybody. They've got to be autistic in order for it to work and to make sense. Of course, Simon Baron Cohen, as far as we know, he's not autistic. But let me tell you about me. So when I rewrote my life, the bad stuff first and then the good stuff. So, as a kid, I didn't fit in. I was bullied really badly. I had difficulties processing multiple instructions. I had a huge challenge with maths. So I think I'm probably dyscalculic. Always problems with socializing, never being part of a group, always on the side. Breakdowns in communications and relationships, meaning multiple jobs, arguments, upset, love affairs, very, very difficult. Experience burnout and meltdown, which unless you've had autistic burnout and meltdown, it's a sight to behold. Sensory issues. I have misophonia. I can hear things in the walls, things that other people don't hear. I love lots of big sounds, but hate other big sounds. smell, touch, vision, sight and sound. So there are many challenges, but on the good side, I'm a psychotherapist. I see patterns in people's behavior. I have attention to detail. I'm big on justice. I'm very determined. I have a hyper focus on my special interests. As far as friendship, I'm very loyal, but to a point. If people take me for granted, then 3 strikes and you're out. I'm a nurturer. I'm a mother and a wife, and I love my children. I have massive joie de vivre and humour, and I'm full of creativity and ideas. I can speak in front of hundreds of people, and I can talk to anybody on the planet. But you put me into a group of middle-aged women talking about children, and I'm in pain.
Okay. That's a fantastic and a colourful and well-rounded description there, Sally. Fantastic.
Is that a bit much for you, Alan?
Not at all. I in terms of, like, what are your thoughts on belonging and being accepted and being understood as an autistic person?
Well, I've always been a bit of a lone wolf.
Okay.
And I've sat on the fence, and I do sit on the fence. I'm loyal to people and pets, but I'm not loyal to things like politics, religions. Well, I'm not religious anyway. Even radio shows and all sorts of things like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm objective, and this is good for a psychotherapist. But I'm not very good in groups, really. So I don't really belong. And that's okay. I'm really happy with that now. I don't need to belong. But saying that, as far as being accepted, now that I am diagnosed and I am part of a wonderful tribe, which is amazing. I'm part of another part of the human race, a new culture of lots of other people who come from different countries, who are different colours, and they're just all across the world, but they talk my language, and I absolutely love that. And I understand them and they understand me, even though we have different spectrums. They're completely unique to us. It's like a fruit salad, lots of traits, co-occurring conditions. We all understand each other, and social media is brilliant for that, and I love it.
Very good. Again, just kind of circling back a little bit to Spectrum 10K, mental health and other biological or neurological conditions play a significant role in the well-being of autistic and non-autistic people. And there is such anxiety and distrust and mistrust, in particular, of a medical perspective and approach. And we've talked a little bit about that. But I suppose in terms of, and again, maybe it's certainly a bigger debate and about that. But one would see that progress in terms of the longevity, quality of life, and all those pieces do require research, do require to push boundaries, do require to kind of go into unknown territory. And I guess, having said that, the concerns are valid that we've talked about. But
I would go on.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at time as well, because that's one of the things that I'm quite aware of in my autistic ADHD brain.
Okay.
Is that there's a couple of things to talk about here. Yeah. I'm 56 years old, and at different times during my life, I felt very cheesed off and sad and stressed, chronic stress. We live, autistic people live with chronic stress all our lives. And this causes loads of cortisol. It causes lots of problems. It causes burnout. It causes fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. We have things that we need to cope with. We have hypermobility, learning difficulties. We're nonverbal. There's all sorts of things that we have. But I spent my life on many occasions thinking I was mentally ill, and I was gaslit by different people throughout my life. When I was diagnosed, I realized I was not mentally ill. My mental health is actually very good. And people say I'm really resilient, I'm really strong. But, I was offered Prozac, I wasn't mentally ill. It's just that society doesn't accommodate, doesn't support, doesn't look after us. And the thing is, going back to the medical side of it, talk to autistic people, but don't just talk to us on a soapbox. For goodness sake, listen to us. The point is that in my practice, my skill is building rapport, gathering information, and listening, actively listening.
Sally, that's absolutely brilliant, and I couldn't agree with you more. And it is all about listening, and again, very much part of what we're all about here, and sharing the stories. And in terms of that piece, the that it is something that people can feel very much alone when they're going to their GP and they're trying to figure out, or and whether it's your child that's autistic, or whether it's the individual themselves later on in life, and whatever else. And the knowledge in terms of GPs, and it is incredibly. It's very limited, and some people will think I'm being kind in saying that, and other people will think that it's but it really is. It is very limited. I've personal experience of going into hospitals with my son and so on, and I just can't believe that there's such a lack of experience and understanding around autism, even still to this day. So I think listening is really important, and I think having a place in again, in educational and health settings primarily, but everywhere, where autism is not just a small 10 or 15 minute module where there's an overview about certain things, because given the prevalence in society now, it's something that needs to be really put, as some of the contributors on Twitter and YouTube have been saying, as usual, we're last in the line, and the notion of nothing about us without us, and yet, I think it was Pete Warmby that said, you just look at the movie with Sia, and how badly wrong that they got it, or they didn't in fact get it at all, and this was the whole point, No. So I think you make a really, really good point there about the medical profession listening and so on. I suppose in terms of then, non-autistic individuals and allies and people who are trying to sort of support the autistic community and the wider autism community, as I say anyway, in terms of families, carers, and really well-meaning, well-intentioned people, teachers, medical practitioners, and so on and so forth. I'll go and say that I'd say there's a cohort there that are quite often, a little bit hesitant, to say it mildly, that it seems like a minefield, saying the right thing, getting it right, getting it wrong, using the wrong terminology, things being taken up the wrong way, and so on and so forth. And I mean, again, we kind of knew we were setting sail in our little boat into the ocean of all this kind of of conjecture and trying to figure things out. But so I suppose if you want to talk about that, I think you described it a little bit earlier on as it can be a minefield sometimes. But but if you just
Okay, so Alan, you talk about having a little boat going into the ocean. I wrote about my ancestor Robert Hitchens, who was at the helm of Titanic when it hit the iceberg.
Yes, right. Okay.
So I know about boats going into oceans and hitting icebergs.
Right.
But I'm going to answer your question about the autism community.
Yeah.
But this is what people can do now while we're on the podcast. We need celebrities. We need important people who have a voice to talk about autism. And these people are brilliant. Anthony Hopkins, David Byrne, Gary Newman, Ella Willis, Paige Lale, Sarah Boone, Harry Thompson, Lyric Holmans, Sarah Gibbs, and Holly Smale. Talk to those people. And as far as the autism community is concerned, absolutely, yes, we can have Autism Awareness Week, but we need action. Anybody who is in the autism community is completely welcome and vitally important, as long as they're not getting up on a soapbox and talking about things they don't understand and talking down to us, making us feel as though we're broken or stupid. It's being part of us. Get amongst autistic people, get our points of view, work with us, and really, it'll be a much better world if we all work together.
Absolutely. I totally couldn't agree with you more. And actually, Wentworth Miller, the actor, was tweeted there quite recently about the amazing support that he got from fellow autistic individuals and the community, the wider community as well. So you can add him to your list there as well, Sally.
Excellent.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to say?
I think this is a really good podcast, and it is difficult because I don't know. Are you autistic yourself?
No one has ever asked me that question so directly. My God, Sally, that's I'm going to say I don't know, and I'm going to say I'm not sure, and I'm going to say I don't know. That's all I'll say for now.
How about the father of your son?
I am the father of my son.
The parents of your son. The reason I say that is because Simon Baron Cohen mentioned this, is because, it is genetic very, very often, and it's highly genetic. So, if you have an autistic son, the chances are there's some neurodivergency. It might not be autism, it could be ADHD or something else in your family. So why not have a bit of a chat?
Yeah. Oh, look. I've been joking. Well, not joking, but I've been having some discussions around that. I mean, I've been in therapy for a long time about all sorts of issues, and and I discussed about that in another podcast as well. One of the first ones with Owen Stevens. But in terms of any kind of formal diagnosis or anything like that, no, not at the moment, and it doesn't. It's not something that's just kind of come up for me right now or anything like that. So you certainly you didn't hold back in asking. You couldn't have asked me any straighter than that. I did.
I don't pull any punches.
I did. No, you didn't pull any punches there. But at the end of the day,
no, but there's millions of people walking, millions of human beings walking on this planet who have gone through their lives and then left the planet not being diagnosed. There's many people out there not diagnosed, and they need diagnosing, not just for people with very, very challenging needs. Anybody who wants an autistic diagnosis should be able to get it and not have to wait 3 years, get misdiagnosed, and just be treated as badly as they have been up to date. I agree. Look, I mean, in my journey, as I said, it's kind of very much, I as Popeye says, I am what I am. And I mean, if and that's kind of where I am at the moment, anyway. But I did say to Matt here, I said we kind of similar to what you said at the start, that doing more and more research, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I identify with that. Yeah, that's very familiar with me. That's very that's very similar. And then I'm kind of saying, gosh, is it like when you're thinking about buying a particular car and you just suddenly start seeing that car everywhere you go? Is it that sort of psychological trick of the mind, or what's going on? But look, it's something that I'm not certain. Just do some research.
I'm not afraid to explore.
Do some research. There's loads on YouTube. You just have to Google it. Thomas E. Brown is very good for ADHD, and Paul Micallef on YouTube is very good for autism.
Okay, very good. I'm not anxious about exploring it or anything like that at the moment. I mean, I'm as we said, we set sail on our little boat into the ocean with this project. So but anyway, so look.
I hope there's not too many icebergs.
No, well, hopefully not. So look, Sally, I'm mindful of the time. We're kind of coming up on the time for you. If there's anything else you want to finish on, but it's been an absolute treat chatting to you. If there's anything else you want to add, that'd be great.
Just thank you very much, Alan. I've really enjoyed being on the podcast, and you never know, in the future you might be on my podcast.
Sure,
and just keep doing what you're doing. We're working together, and we just need to be going in the right direction. Everybody talking to each other and being connected.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Sally. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. We hope you took something of value from it. If you'd like to know more about today's episode, we'll put details on the website, where you can also find all our previous episodes, including our interview with Sir Simon Baron Cohen about Spectrum 10K. As always, we understand everyone's experience is unique. However, it's also reassuring to know that you're not alone in your journey. If you have any ideas or suggestions, or just want to reach out to us here, please contact us. You can email hello@polarbearproject.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter with the hashtag Polar Bear Project Podcast. The project is currently 100% voluntary. You can donate and subscribe on the website. We're so grateful for all the support to date. If you'd like to advertise on the show, please get in touch with us also. That's all for now. We look forward to sharing another episode with you soon. We welcome your input. We can't say it often enough. Your lived experience matters. If you want to be heard, we're listening. Until the next time, take your time.